Hi, I'm Johnny from UltimatePaperMache.com, and today I made the wire armature for this little Chihuahua that I'm making. I'm going to be covering it with paper strips and paste, the traditional paper mache method. Haven't done that for a long time, so I thought it'd be kind of fun. And even though I used here it is right here, even though I used a pattern that was based on a side view, he ended up sitting down, kind of one of those slumpy sideways sitting downs that bulldogs like to do a lot. Sometimes Chihuahuas do too, and I just kind of think that's kind of a fun posture, and so that's what I used on this guy. So let's go ahead and see how this was done.
These are the items that I used for my little armature. I used my pattern, of course, some light wire, some aluminum foil, and some masking tape. And of course, you'd also need some wire cutters and a pair of scissors. I printed out two of the patterns because I wanted one of them to be kept whole so that I could use it as a guide for the sculpture as I went along. But then the other one, I went ahead and cut out the head and the ear and traced around them on some light cardboard, like the kind that they use for cereal boxes. I cut out the head and the ears and put those aside. Then I cut 5 pieces of wire. I wanted to make sure they were long enough, one of them for the entire spine, all the way from the head to the tail, and then the 4 legs, of course. And on each of them I put extra length so that I could use that extra bit of wire on the ends to attach the pieces all together. I used some tie wire that I had on hand, but aluminum armature wire would be a lot easier to use if you happen to have some. It's also a lot more expensive, and I don't have some, so I used the tie wire. It does get rust on your hands, but it's cheap, and for something this little it works just fine. I punched 2 holes in the head along the line of the spine and threaded the wire through the holes and then back again, just because it seemed stronger than using masking tape. I was pretty sure that the head was going to fall off when I was messing with it, and this just seemed like an easier way to keep it on. I bent each wire for the legs to conform to the blue skeleton line on my pattern, and in this particular case, I marked the joints on the wire, but it wasn't really needed since I didn't bend my Chihuahua until after I covered the wire with foil. So I ended up not being able to see those marks anyway. But the top marks, where the shoulders and the hip bones meet, right at the spine, they should be marked because you need those to get the placement of the legs correct. I just went ahead and used masking tape to make the marks, and it worked okay. And then I used more masking tape to connect the legs to the spine, using the pattern as a guide again. The armature wire, if you had some, could have been twisted around the spine, but the tape worked just fine. I wrapped foil around the legs, using the pattern as a guide, just laid it right on the pattern so that I could see if I was using too much or too little foil. And then I used masking tape on places where the foil didn't want to stay put. I bent the legs into the final posture after the foil was already on. But it would have been a lot easier to do it first, obviously, but I forgot. So this is the way it worked, and it worked just fine. I think it was actually a little bit easier to see the posture with the foil on the legs, but the legs would have been easier to bend without it. I did have to cut into part of the foil on the back leg just to make it bend properly at the hip. And then I continued to bend and shape him as I finished adding the foil to the body and all the rest of it, all the way up to the end, just to make sure that I had a posture that looked natural. Foil was added to the chest and the tummy, again using the pattern as a guide. Even though the backbone is curved differently than the pattern since he's sitting down, I was still able to use the depth of the chest and the tummy on the pattern to make sure that I kept the shapes correct. Now, once the body was all filled out, I added foil to the neck and the head. I covered all of the foil with masking tape because it will fall off eventually, and I think it's a little bit easier to get paper mache to stick to masking tape than it is to just foil. And then more little bits of foil can always be added anywhere that you happen to see someplace that needs to be filled out a bit more, just like you would if you were working with clay. In order to add the ears, I had to soften up the cardboard a little bit because it was a bit stiff. They do need to curve into a C shape, just like ours. And then I just went ahead and taped it onto the head.
So that's what we've got so far. A little wire and aluminum foil and a whole lot of masking tape, and that's exactly what it looks like right now. It's in the shape of a Chihuahua, but it definitely needs a lot more work. In my next video, I'll put the paper mache on, and the video after that, I'll paint him. Since this is going to be 3 videos in the series, it's going to end up on the extended tutorials page of my blog. Just go ahead and go out to my blog at ultimatepapermache.com and click on the Paper Mache Tutorials tab, and you'll see it there. If you make a Chihuahua or anything else, please come over to Ultimate Paper Mache and show it off. I would love to see what you're up to. Meet me there. Bye-bye.